Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey Kerr. I'm here today with an actor, comedian, filmmaker, and entrepreneur. He's also the host of his own podcast titled Long Shot Leaders. Please welcome Michael Stein.
Hey, Jeffrey, thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey, great to have you.
So, tell me, like, what do you want to, what was your audience like? What can we talk about today?
Well, to start things off, would you mind telling us about your podcast?
I'll give you a long version of it. I do a podcast called Long Shot Leaders because I consider myself a long shot, a long line of long shots, an underdog story. My grandmother escaped the Russian concentration camps on our way to America. My dad was a New York homeless street kid. He became a multimillionaire only to become homeless again. And I was born premature, health problems, ADHD, dyslexia, weird stutter, health issues, just all kinds of things. And really never had success until was like, I started making people laugh as a young age. That was the only success I had. And one day I saw the movie Rocky. And when I was like, 11 years old, and I said, here's a guy like me. He's not very smart. He's funny. He keeps on losing and getting knocked down, but he keeps on getting back up. And I said, the only difference between this guy and myself is he's physically fit. So I decided every day I would work out since then. And, a few years later, I turned 16 years old and I was a physical fitness trainer. And I said, oh, I could do two things that are successful. So I told my high school tutor, I want to be a stand-up comedian, an actor, and an entrepreneur. My dad was a successful entrepreneur for a little while. And I said, he'd never finished the eighth grade. I could do the same thing. She said, you should work with your hands because not everybody's meant to do what they want to do. I said, screw you, lady. I'm going to start my own business. Started my own business and failed. And then 6 months later, I started another business as the nightclub promoter in Los Angeles. In my age bracket, I became the #1 nightclub promoter. And I said, I was off to the races. From there, I was able to get my first acting role. My first acting role was playing Dirt Diggler in the Dirt Diggler story, which turned into the movie Boogie Nights, which I appear in as well. I became a filmmaker after that. Much success. I did an award-winning short film, put all my money into it, left the nightclub business. And then I was broken in debt and I got close to a movie deal, didn't have it. And then I decided, well, I am going to start my own business so I can make my own movie. Only problem is I needed to, make money right away. I made within 8 months, I made $500,000. Made my first feature length film with two-time Academy Award winner Faye Dunaway, Andy Dick, and Coolio. Did well, but ever since then, I said, you know what, I'm going to take care of this business. And I grew it to over $100 million. And I haven't looked back. And I said to myself, if I were going to do a podcast, it would be about the rise and fall of people. It would be about underdogs and people that have found, success, but went through a lot of failure to do so. And that's why I do a podcast called Long Shot Leaders. And that's about me.
And what have you been enjoying most about doing the podcast?
I got to tell you, it's been a learning experience. I get to take it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You get to take these people and they have a skill set and you get to like ask them any question you want and they'll give you the answers. So I'm extremely curious when I get to talk to these people. I've talked to some of the most powerful people on the planet, but people that have overcome, they started at such a low point and they created such, not just monetary wealth, but financial, physical, spiritual, relationship. And I've got to learn the algorithm even more so on what these people do to find success. It's been amazing.
And going back to the beginning, how did you first get started in the industry?
Well, the first thing I did, my first acting role playing Dirt Diggler in the short film version of Boogie Nights, is my girlfriend, because I got an idea for a short film. I think you're really funny. And it's about the rise and fall of a porno star, and then about a couple months later, we ended up doing the film. That's what really kind of opened my eyes up to more possibilities in the world of acting. That did really well and started to make films myself.
Yeah, you've done quite a bit of work both in front of and behind the camera. What have you enjoyed most about going back and forth between those jobs?
It's the creative process of really, understanding the 360 experience. So as an actor, you write a screenplay and you get a totally different experience. From a director, you're getting a different experience. So they're all integrated. I can't really tell you which one I like more. I probably, directing's really difficult because you have to compose. It's like going to war and you got to map out a plan, not like, endangering your life or anything, but there's a lot of planning. Writing is a very peaceful, slow process. And you got to sit there and concentrate on the structure of your story. Acting is more like a sport. It's more like an art form to where you get to exercise your emotions and it's a little more free form. So acting is a soft spot for me, but I like the other two because you get to put your brain to it.
That's a great attitude to have.
I think so.
Yeah, and as an actor, you got to have small parts in some movies from different auteur directors. What I'd like to do right now is go over three of them one by one, and when I do so, would you mind talking about the scenes you're in as well as your experiences making them?
Yes, go ahead. If you're looking on the IMDb, I wasn't in an LA story. They need to fix that.
Oh, what about Black Swan or La La Land?
No, not La La Land or Black Swan. I gotta keep on telling those guys to edit that.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask about those, so I guess they can go. Yeah, I don't know if it's a different Michael Stein or what.
Not sure.
You mentioned you got to be in the Paul Thomas Anderson's 1997 Academy Award nominated film Boogie Nights, where you played a stereo customer. Now, what scene were you in?
Well, I was just a customer where Don Cheadle, he's trying to sell me a stereo, and I'm a reluctant buyer, and I'm like, he's going through all these aphorisms of a TK 228, all this stuff and jargon, and basically he plays some country music and just not interested, and I ended up, walking out in a scuff. Basically, it was a really great experience working with Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's a craftsman. He's a great actor. Right there in the San Fernando Valley, where it was filmed, right in my hometown. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, and what was it like getting to work with Paul Thomas Anderson?
We were best friends when we did the Dirk Diggler story 8 years prior. Which is the short film to Boogie Nights. So it was surreal to watch somebody because his first film was the Dirk Diggler story, and that was my first film acting. So we kind of watched this whole thing grow, over 8 years, and it was just amazing to watch how much he grew and what he ended up doing. And it was just a dynamic, a Tour de France of emotions. It really made me believe, if you really kind of just, apply yourself, things can happen. It was just wonderful to see that process, an 8 year process from his first, project to now him going to the Oscars, after making Boogie Nights, his second film. That was extraordinary.
Oh yeah, and I believe his next film. Now I haven't been keeping up with it, but I saw that he's eyeing like Denzel Washington or Leonardo DiCaprio for it.
Yeah, yeah, I read that too. He says he wants to have Denzel Washington, I believe. That'll be very interesting and dynamic. I'd like to see that myself.
Yeah, and would you ever be up for working with him again?
We haven't talked in a long time. I would not be opposed to that. I would much rather mend a friendship because we haven't had a friendship in a long time. That would be my first priority. And then anything happens after that. But friendship is to me is more valuable than anything else.
And of course, you're also an entrepreneur. Now, what have you enjoyed most about being one?
You know, the greatest thing about being an entrepreneur, more so than even the entertainment industry, you control everything when you're an entrepreneur. Of course, you're bound by certain things, but you have so much freedom. You're an island. You can create anything you want, and you don't have to abide by certain things that other industries and types of things. So whatever you put in is what you get out. So it's been an amazing ride. I started with nothing and in debt. My motivation was to make my own movie, and I started this company that I have now. Like I said, it's made over $100 million, and it's growing into, we're expanding to a new product line that's a big brand. Hopefully it'll be like a mega company. It's limitless. So being a stand-up comedian and an actor and a filmmaker and all that in the past, to me, there's a poetic art form to being an entrepreneur because you create the whole thing. You're the actor, writer, director, producer, editor, composer, everything.
Well, yeah, in fact, my family is kind of getting into business of being entrepreneurs ourselves, mainly in buying investment properties.
Right. Oh God, great. Investment properties are great. What kind of properties?
Well, we already have a beach house, far away from where I live, and we're looking to homes in like, the mountains someplace or up in Ohio or even farther up north.
Yeah, I personally I have I like to invest in commercial warehousing. So the most passive. I love real estate business.
And we haven't touched that much on your career as a comedian. What have you enjoyed most about doing, I guess, comedy?
To me, that was the very first thing. That was a way of life for me. It was a way of survival. I had a lot of problems as a kid. I didn't either make people laugh at me or just make people laugh in general. So that was before I even did the Drew Degler story and acting when I was 19 years old. I did stand-up comedy in my hometown of Encino, California. I just have a love affair. I was never a professional comedian that went on the circuit, that traveled the country, but I have performed at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, many other, places in LA. And I did it off and on for 20 years. And it's something that I'll probably go back to again, most likely at the end of this year, and probably do it forever. It's just a way of life. It's like, certain people just work out every day. I think stand up comedy always be in my DNA and always, even as I'm an entrepreneur, that's what I'm most successful at. But I think stand up comedy is like something that's embedded in me deeper than anything else.
And for those who'd like to pursue a career in really any of the, I guess, entertainment fields you work in, where do you think would be a good place to start?
Just start. Just, like, well, it depends on what you want to do. Like, you want to be an actor, start taking acting classes, whether you're in school, take them there, take them anywhere you can. I know money's an issue sometimes. You can do anything on YouTube, it, read screenplays, watch movies, watch how movies are made, watch documentaries on movies getting made, write, your ideas, study human development, personal development, and understand the way why people do what they do, because that's what acting and telling stories, because you're normally going to tell a story about people. Personal development, which is another big part of my life, which I started in my early 20s, is the best way to learn anything about business. So I would say start those things first, because you would be surprised on how essential that is, learning personal development and how that helps everything. It's the one thing people don't talk about enough that can move the needle for you more than anything, personal development.
And before we go, do you have any other upcoming projects that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I'm launching a big brand, probably the biggest anything I've ever done in business, called Bolator. That's launching in June. It's going to be a unique outdoor product that hopefully what we consider will be a household name of outdoor products that people will be hearing about shortly after the launch. In July, a month after that, we'll be doing stand-up comedy again. So you could probably, check out my social channels shortly after that. You'll see this is entrepreneur. He's doing stand-up comedy. I'll be doing stand-up on my. You can check out all my social channels and probably see clips of that. Starting in June as well.
And Michael, I thank you very much for devoting your time to this interview. It was great getting to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
And for those who'd like to keep up with your career, where can people find you on the internet?
You can just go to longshotleaders.com. That's where the website is, but it talks all about, my story and everything else that we're doing. And if you got a long shot story, if you're somebody that has an underdog story that's overcome large obstacles to find success, reach out to us on longshotleaders.com and fill out the form and let us know what your story is, and we'll have you on the podcast.
All right, that sounds good. And thanks again for joining me today, Michael. This was great.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.